what I'm trying to say is that Bitcoin is not an investment. And I'll tell you why. Back in 2017, let me tell you a story. Back in 2017, I got into Bitcoin because my roommate was fixated on his computer all day. So I would pass by his room and I would ask, what is he doing? Because he's here day in and day out. And he was telling me he was checking out this brand new site called Coinbase, and he was getting into crypto. I didn't really know a lot about crypto at the time. So when I asked my friend what he was doing, he went on a huge lecture of how crypto was going to be the future, and then how I need to get into Bitcoin right now. And then if I bought in now, the investment would take me to the moon. Mind you, I actually already heard about Bitcoin back in like 2012 when it was like around $100. But unfortunately for me, I was in high school. I didn't have any money, and buying Bitcoin back then was way too complicated for a kid who just wanted to play some Modern Warfare 3. Anyways, so back in 2017, I was a junior in college and I bought my first piece of Bitcoin. And you would think that'd be the end of it. It just went to the moon and I was a freaking Bitcoin millionaire. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. And even worse, I caught that crypto bug that a lot of people have now, where they're just telling everyone to get into it. I told my friends, my neighbors, my family. I even convinced my situationship at the time to buy Bitcoin, and everyone did. Everyone bought Bitcoin at around like 10,000 a coin. You'd think in hindsight they would be thanking me, but hindsight is 2020, or should I say 2019? Because on February 7th, 2019. Bitcoin had dropped to $3,375.33 a coin. You don't need to be a math genius to know I plunged everyone I knew into the red, including my family, who didn't let me live it down. You would think after Bitcoin lost more than half its value over the course of 2 years, I would have just given up. And even more embarrassingly, I was a big believer in Ethereum at the time. I really thought the contracts with Ethereum were gonna send me to the moon on their blockchain. I ended up buying some Ethereum when it was like $3.30 a coin, and that sank to less than $100, which wasn't great. So at that point, I had already graduated college and felt the only thing I could do to rectify this was to just read books on investing. So yeah, imagine being so wrong. You force yourself to read a book. Yeah, that's crazy. Fortunately, that's when I started investing in a more diverse portfolio with various different stocks and bonds, and even held on to my crypto portion for fun, part of my fun investment. Making sure it only made up less than 5% of the whole portfolio. And in the end, I was vindicated because there was a huge price jump in Bitcoin. But now, the narrative has completely flipped, and people are saying to buy the dip. Now's the best time to go all in. It's heavily on discount. Fire sale, I'll even play a track of a video I saw when trying to do research for this topic. I'll just play it real quick.
But then you've turned around and said,
just buy a little bit of everything in case something goes to hell.
What? If you're trying to build wealth, shouldn't you want to back your strongest horse? Not spread your bets around like you're trying to pick numbers at a roulette table. You don't get 8 degrees hoping just one of them lands you a job. You don't buy 6 phones in case one of them explodes. You don't get 4 wives hoping just one of them works out.
Yeah, that has got to be the craziest thing I've heard. Mainly because diversification is a cornerstone of all successful investments. And if you own a business, it's important to be diversified. It's actually the reason why big companies acquire other companies that are in different industries, like how Amazon bought Whole Foods, or why some content creators will not only sell merch but also like courses and one-on-one consultations. They'll even build like apps. It's even a really important strategy for countries. Like, for example, the US will leverage the fact that it's made up of different states that have different economic vehicles. So, for instance, if one state can't stay afloat, it can rely on the revenue from another state to stay afloat. You know, like one really good example was like with Hurricane Katrina. You know, not all states have the same weather issues or climate disasters. So when something like Katrina happened, other states were able to help pull funds together to help support those that were impacted. That's all I'll say. Diversification is so important because if you put all your eggs in one basket, you better hope nothing happens to that basket. Even if Bitcoin were to return to its all-time highs, something we got to keep in mind is like how likely that'll happen in the short run. You know, just to put this in perspective, if you bought Bitcoin today at say like 60,000, in order to double your money, Bitcoin would need to jump back to its all-time highs of like 120,000. And the likelihood of that happening now seems super slim with the wild sell-off that we're seeing. We're talking an almost $2 trillion wiped off across the broader crypto market. And I don't see that rebounding anytime soon. You know, with all this in mind, we're all human beings. And we're all just basically figuring this all out. So if you feel the urge to throw your money into crypto, only invest money you're not afraid to lose. Because, plot twist, it can immediately drop in value as soon as you buy it. So, in short, after experiencing all the ups and downs of owning Bitcoin, you know, before the post-COVID crypto hype, I've had enough excitement. Yeah, I'd rather just go to the movies instead of trying to go to the moon.
Now watch this drive. Until you're dead.